In the heart of World War II, the B-26 Marauder soared through the skies, a sleek and powerful bomber that struck fear into the hearts of its enemies. Dubbed the Widowmaker due to its early reputation for difficult handling, the Marauder quickly earned respect as one of the most effective medium bombers of the war. Pilots and crews who mastered this formidable aircraft took on daring missions, weaving through enemy fire to deliver their payloads with precision. One such mission, over the war-torn skies of Normandy in 1944, saw a squadron of B-26s tasked with crippling key enemy supply lines. Against all odds, they braved flak and fighters, their engines roaring defiantly. The Marauders completed their mission with astounding accuracy, turning the tide for ground forces below. This daring raid showcased the resilience and strategic importance of the B-26, transforming its legacy from a challenging aircraft to a symbol of Allied might. In January 1939, the U.S. Army Air Corps sought a high-speed bomber capable of enhancing the country's aerial combat capabilities. The Glenn L. Martin Company responded with the Model 179, a streamlined, twin-engine, all-metal monoplane that impressed military officials with its innovative design and potential performance. In September 1939, the Army placed an order for the aircraft, designating it the B-26 Marauder. By November 1940, the first production model took to the skies, showcasing its advanced features and sleek, modern appearance. The B-26 Marauder was designed to be a high-speed bomber that could outmaneuver enemy fighters and deliver its payloads with precision. The aircraft's design included several groundbreaking innovations. This aircraft was equipped with a tricycle landing gear and powered by two Pratt & Whitney R2800 twin Wasp radial engines driving four-blade propellers. The engines were produced at Ford's Dearborn Engine Plant in Michigan, ensuring robust performance and reliability. The B-26's streamlined circular section fuselage was designed to accommodate its crew efficiently. At the forefront was a bombardier, positioned in the nose and armed with 7.62 mm machine gun. The pilot and co-pilot sat side by side in the cockpit, with positions for the radio operator and navigator situated just behind them. A key feature of the B-26 was its dorsal turret, the first powered dorsal turret installed on a U.S. bomber, operated by the gunner and armed with two 12.7 mm machine guns. Additional defensive firepower included a 7.62 mm machine gun mounted in the tail. The aircraft featured two mid-fuselage bomb bays, capable of carrying a substantial bomb load of 2,600 kilograms. However, due to the impact on range, the aft bomb bay was often equipped with additional fuel tanks rather than bombs. This adaptability made the B-26 a versatile platform for various mission profiles. One of the notable design aspects of the B-26 was its low aspect ratio wings, with a relatively small area for an aircraft of its weight. This configuration provided the high performance required by the Army Air Corps, but resulted in a high wing loading. At the time, this was the highest wing loading of any USAAC aircraft until the introduction of the Boeing B-29 Superfortress. This design characteristic contributed to the B-26's early reputation for challenging handling during takeoff and landing. The maiden flight of the B-26 occurred on November 25, 1940, with Martin test pilot William C. Ken Ebel at the controls. This initial flight marked the debut of what was essentially a prototype. Deliveries to the USAAC commenced in February 1941, with the second aircraft, designated 40-1362, entering service. By March 1941, the Army had begun accelerated service testing of the B-26 at Patterson Field near Dayton, Ohio. Despite its early teething problems and the ominous nicknames it garnered, the B-26 Marauder evolved into a formidable bomber. The B-26 Marauder's journey in World War II began in February 1941, when the 22nd Bomb Group at Langley Field, Virginia, received their first aircraft, replacing the aging Douglas B-18s. By December 1941, The 38th and 28th Bomb Groups were also equipped with the new B-26s, marking a significant upgrade in the U.S. Army Air Corps' bomber fleet. Following the attack on Pearl Harbor, the 22nd Bomb Group was quickly deployed to the Southwest Pacific. On April 5, 1942, the 22nd BG executed its first combat mission, an audacious attack on Rabaul, with a necessary stopover at Port Moresby, New Guinea. Meanwhile, the 38th Bomb Group, which began receiving B-26 in November 1941, was stationed at Patterson Field, Ohio, where they conducted extensive tests on the aircraft's range and fuel efficiency. As the United States entered World War II, tentative plans were made to deploy the 38th BG to the Southwest Pacific, equipping them with B-26Bs that featured additional fuel tanks and provisions for carrying aerial torpedoes. By June 1942, B-26 squadrons of the 38th BG were based in New Caledonia and Fiji, conducting missions against Japanese bases in the Solomon Islands. During one such mission, a B-26 successfully downed a Kawanishi H-6K flying boat, showcasing the aircraft's versatility in combat. However, by 1943, the decision was made to phase out the B-26 in the Southwest Pacific Theater in favor of the North American B-25 Mitchell. 3 bomber groups were assigned to support the Allied invasion of French North Africa in November 1942. Initially tasked with low-level attacks against heavily defended targets, they faced heavy casualties and poor results. As tactics evolved to mid-level attacks, the B-26 Marauder began to show its true potential. By the end of the North African campaign, these groups had flown 1,587 combat missions, losing 80 aircraft, a loss rate double that of the B-25, which flew 70% more missions with fewer aircraft. Despite these challenges, the B-26 continued to serve valiantly with the 12th Air Force, supporting the Allied advance through Sicily, Italy, and southern France. Air Marshal Sir John Slessor, Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the Mediterranean Allied Air Forces, praised the amazing accuracy of experienced medium bomber groups, especially the Marauders. The B-26 entered service with the 8th Air Force in England in early 1943, with the 322nd Bomb Group making its first flights in May. Initially, the B-26s flew low-level missions similar to those in North Africa, but faced devastating losses. On their second mission, an attack on the IJmuiden power plant in the Netherlands, the entire force of 11 B-26s was lost to anti-aircraft fire and Luftwaffe fighters. This disaster prompted a switch to medium-altitude operations, and the B-26s were transferred to the newly created 9th Air Force to support the planned invasion of France. Operating at altitudes of 10,000 to 15,000 feet and with fighter escorts, the Marauder became a highly effective precision bomber. It targeted bridges, V-1 launch pads, and other strategic sites in the lead-up to D-Day, eventually moving to bases in France as they became available. By the war's end, the B-26 had earned a reputation for accuracy, being rated by the Air Force as the most precise bomber available in the European theater. Its loss rates were dramatically lower, with the 9th Air Force reporting the B-26 as having the lowest loss rate in the European theater at less than 0.5%. Following Operation Torch, the Allied invasion of North Africa, the Free French Air Force began a transformative phase, converting 3 squadrons to operate the B-26 Marauder for medium bomber missions in Italy and during the Allied invasion of southern France. These B-26 Marauders replaced the older Lioré et Olivier Leo 45U1s and Douglas DB-7s, significantly enhancing the operational capabilities of the French Air Force. By the end of World War II, the Marauder had become a mainstay for the French, with 7 out of the 9 French groups de bombardement flying these formidable aircraft. They played a crucial role, participating in 270 missions and completing 4,884 sorties in combat, demonstrating their versatility and effectiveness in various theaters of war. The Free French B-26 groups were eventually disbanded in June 1945 as the conflict drew to a close. Although the B-26 was replaced in active squadron service by 1947, its legacy endured. Two of these aircraft continued to serve as testbeds for the Snecma Atar jet engine, with one remaining in use until 1958. The B-26 Marauder's adaptability and extended service life highlight its significant impact on military aviation history. In the immediate post-war years, the versatile B-26 Marauder found new life beyond the battlefield. A handful of these robust aircraft were converted into high-speed executive transports, capable of carrying up to 15 passengers. Each conversion was unique, reflecting varied specifications and custom designs. One particularly striking example, completed in 1948, showcased streamlined nose and tail cones, along with newly inserted windows in the rear fuselage. Initially serving United Airlines, this sleek transport later found its way to Mexico. Eventually, it was acquired by the Confederate Air Force, where it was meticulously restored to its wartime glory for aerial displays. Tragically, this storied Marauder met its end in a fatal crash in 1995. Its journey from a wartime bomber to a commercial transport and finally a cherished historical exhibit underscores the remarkable adaptability and enduring legacy of the B-26 Marauder. By the end of World War II, the B-26 Marauder had proven its worth many times over. It had flown over 110,000 combat missions and dropped an astonishing 150,000 tons of bombs. This formidable aircraft was not only a staple for U.S. forces, but also saw significant combat use by British, Free French, and South African forces. When production ceased in 1945, a total of 5,266 B-26 Marauders had been built. This impressive production number highlights the critical role the Marauder played during the war. Its contributions spanned multiple theaters and countries, marking it as a key asset in the Allied victory and a significant chapter in the history of military aviation.